Amenhotep III was the last great king of the 18th dynasty. His father hadn't reigned for long, possibly less than a decade, and Amenhotep became pharaoh at a very young age. Now, we don't have precise dates for his reign, because our chronology is based on reported astronomical events, and these events could have happened on different dates depending upon where they were recorded. The upshot of this imprecision is that Amenhotep became pharaoh somewhere between the ages of 6 and 14. I would guess it was towards the upper end of this range, given that he's reported to have married his great wife Tia in his second regnal year, Tia being a couple of years older, but we don't know for sure. What we do know a lot about is Amenhotep's reign, partly because we found the tombs of a large number of Amenhotep's courtiers and other prominent members of society. We also have diplomatic correspondence, mainly from the end of his reign and throughout his sons, but even these provide an insight into Amenhotep as a diplomatic figure. He wasn't much of a military one. He led at least one successful campaign, south of Egypt, to crush a rebellion, but he wasn't a conqueror. Amenhotep was a committed polygamist, and had at least 5 consorts, many of whom were foreign princesses. A diplomatic marriage was a common thing in ancient times, and remains so, well, they're still happening kind of, all over the place. Egypt wasn't a reciprocal partner in this practice, however. Amenhotep outright refused to send any of his own daughters to marry Babylonian king Kadashman-Enlil, saying that Egypt had never sent its princesses to marry foreigners. There's a logic to this, stemming both from Egypt's politics and its religion. Religiously, Egypt was reluctant to send its people far from the Nile Valley where they might die and fail to reach the afterlife. Politically, remember Thutmose I and the possibility that he married into the royal family to become pharaoh? If that was all that was needed, why would a pharaoh ever want to marry his daughter off, and thus give the new husband an arguable claim to Horus's throne? Ahmose II was so reluctant, hundreds of years later, that he sent a fake daughter, and the discovery of this ruse led to Egypt's subjugation by Persia. Amenhotep's almost 40-year reign must have been a reassuring period of stability for Egyptians after his father's short tenure. He celebrated 3 Sed festivals, the Jubilee celebrations that marked a pharaoh of long years. Most didn't even make it to one. During this long reign, he commissioned some iconic statues, including the Colossi of Memnon. In fact, Amenhotep remains the most statued pharaoh of all time. He also commissioned a grand and tremendous funerary temple, but sadly it was gone 2 centuries after its construction because it was built too close to the river and the Nile rose to claim it. Atenism, Egypt's experiment with something like monotheism, is closely associated with Akhenaten, but it was a tree with many roots. Amun became the chief deity when the dynasty was founded, and under Hatshepsut his cult was expanded and given vast amounts of influence and power over the state. Amenhotep's father recognised Aten as a god in its own right, but it was Amenhotep who established a formal cult for the Sun Orb. Not necessarily as a rival for the supremacy of Amun, of course, but a new cult means new priests, new ideas, something for a pragmatic new king to latch onto, perhaps. One thing we should note is that Amenhotep III certainly didn't think of the Aten as an afterthought. He founded the city and palace of the dazzling Aten, Chechenyatin, and Chechenyatin, dazzling or gleaming Aten, was actually an epithet that he gave himself. Remember that when we talk about Akhenaten, because I think it's more relevant than it's usually taken to be. Towards the end of his reign, Amenhotep shared a regency with his son, who was called, at the time, Amenhotep. It's not clear how long this co-regency lasted, evidence varies between it being for less than a year and up to 8. Either way, this other Amenhotep was not the original heir. His elder brother, obviously a Thutmose, had died probably quite young, leaving the way clear for the future Akhenaten. If you are an aficionado of this channel, you will actually be familiar with this young Prince Thutmose, because it was young Prince Thutmose whose companion, Tamiut, was buried in the famous crypt I discussed many videos ago. Anyway, Egypt's future looked bright. By the end of Amenhotep's reign, it was at heights of power never dreamt of, even by the pyramid builders of the Old Kingdom. When the 18th dynasty had been founded, forged out of rebellion and national pride, there was nowhere to go but up. Alas, when you reach the top of a hill, the only way forward is to descend. and the 18th dynasty would not so much descend as skip gaily, flinging itself downwards, risking not only its own existence, but possibly the existence of Egypt itself. Thanks for watching. That's it for the 18th dynasty for now. When we pick it back up, I'll tell the story one king at a time of its final decline. Should be fun. Subscribe for that and more, and while you're here, why not tell the like button it's as gleaming and beautiful as the sun itself. The ambitious cultists whose new god will create new problems are my backers at patreon.com/armchairegypt, and my gratitude to them is unending. Until next time, my fellow armchair Egyptologists, life, prosperity and health to you all. Thanks for watching. Head over to my channel for more, or click here to see what the YouTube demons think you should watch next. I hope you'll consider subscribing. If you'd like to support and collaborate on the channel with me, go to patreon.com/armchairegypt. You can also join my Discord community, there's an invite link in the description.